All right, chapter 5 is about probability. I already gave a crash course of probability to some of you, but it doesn't hurt to go back over it. So probability is between 0 and 1. Here is one of the formulas. So probability that A is going to happen is the number of outcomes corresponding to A over the total number of outcomes. If it doesn't occur, then it's going to be the opposite. So it's going to be 1 minus the probability that occurred. So it's going to be 1 minus P of A there. If it's mutually exclusive, that means it's also that's the same thing as disjoint. So that means that two things, it doesn't matter, they don't happen at the same time. Union, which was on one of our tests, that means or. So just remember that. That might be on the final. Independent events mean that the outcomes don't affect each other. If you want to find the probability of that A or B will happen, you're going to do probability of A plus probability of B minus the probability of A and B. And this sign means and I remember that because it looks like an N, and so you kind of say A and B, I don't know. And then or is going to be P of A like that. That's going to be or. And it's just a U. Conditional probability, that's the probability that something's going to occur given that something already occurred. And that may be confusing, but you write it out like this, P, A, and then a little line, and then B. And then, so that's going to be probability that A and B happens over the probability that B happens. If you already know that the probability of A and B, or if you're trying to find the probability that A and B happens and you already know the probability of A and this conditional probability, then you can rewrite the equation like this. We also talked about tree diagrams, and we found probability that way, and I actually have an example of that, so we can get to that now. Okay, so for the first example, this is a simple probability question. What is the probability you roll a 2 and a 1 with two die? So there's 36. Okay, so the probability that you roll 2 is going to be 1/6. And so if you're trying to get an exact, if you're trying to get two numbers, then you're going to square the bottom. Well, all of it, but it'll be 1/6 squared, and that's going to be 1/36. So the probability that you get this is going to be 1/36. Okay, so then this was also in our notes, but I decided to just draw it out. So HSG, that means high school graduate. This is not high school graduate. Homeowner, not a homeowner. So what is the probability that the person is a high school graduate? So high school graduate is 310. So that's the total. So you just go down the line. So it'll be 310. And then to find the probability, it's going to be over the total, which is 500. And that number is 0.62. So that's your probability there. Is a high school graduate or owns a home. So this is the weird one. So we're going to use this equation. I'm just going to go ahead and write this down here. P equals A, P of A or B equals P of A plus P of B, minus P of A and B. Okay, so is a high school graduate or owns a home. So probability of high school, I'm just going to do an H. Probability of H or I'm going to change that to G, sorry. G, so graduate or home, H, equals probability of G, which is the 0.62, plus the probability that they own a home, which we're going to go ahead and find, which is 340 divided by 500. So we found that the same way we found this one. And that is 0.68 minus the probability that they are a high school graduate and they own a home, which you'll go over here, high school graduate and homeowner, so you'll get 221 divided by 500, and that is 0.442, and you'll get 68.18, and so that is the probability that they are a high school graduate or they own a home. Okay. So now we're going to use the conditional probability, which is P of A line B equals P of A and B over probability of B. So that's that equation again, just in case you forgot. So the probability that if we know someone owns a home, what is the probability that they're a high school graduate? So here, to write this out, we're finding graduate here. So you're going to do P of G line H. So that's what that part will look like. I just remember it if it's what you're finding, that's what you put first here. And then this equals probability of the probability of G and H. I'll go ahead and write this out so then we can just find it in a second. G and H over the probability of H. Okay, so that's going to be the same as, so when we're finding graduate and homeowner, we did it up here, and we'll do it again. So it'll be 0.442, which is this number here. That's how I got that, divided by the probability that they're a homeowner, which is 340 divided by 500, and that'll be 68.68. And then you just divide those, and you get 0.65. So the probability that they are a high schooler knowing that they're a high school graduate knowing that they have a home is 0.68. And that is basically chapter 5 summed up.